My name is Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com. Welcome to today's morning call. It is Tuesday, a new week. Hope everyone had a nice holiday weekend. I think a lot of people went into the weekend a little anxious, uneasy, for the 3 weeks of selling, the toughest 3 weeks that has been deemed the hardest or harshest start ever. Some pretty big headlines, but just when those headlines start to hit and sentiment gets very, very, very bearish, then that's typically when you try and get some kind of oversold bounce. And we've had some of these gap ups all fail. The way to go so far this year has been sell the rally. Okay, write down resistance 1, 2, and 3. See where you can maybe play a small bounce to, and then where you have to get out of the way and perhaps sell. So that's going to be part of the process today. Our futures are up about 25 handles. Everyone's looking around why. Well, a few things, like I just said, we're very oversold. Then you have in Asia, I know the headline is, GDP and all the economic numbers were the worst in 25 years. But they came in line and those markets have been annihilated. And the Shanghai actually bounced off 2,800 and it's up 3.2%. So that's helping with sentiment. And then you have Europe up 2%. So, put that all together and we have an up open that we have to figure out whether or not it sticks. And we could trade it if we're not long coming in. I know today I'm not long coming in. Last week you had that reversal on Thursday. I think a lot of us planned for it. And if you took anything overnight, you got blasted on Friday. So I said I just got to be flat. So today we're not getting the setup we want, so we're going to have to figure out how to make money. And if you look here at the chart of the SPX, you will see that overall, you take a close-up look on the micro. I think a lot of us were hoping, got that little tradable bounce from here and then got blasted on Friday. So now, Friday, we put a low in. If you want to write it down, that's a new pivot low for this year at 1857 before coming off that. Let me just get this out of the way because no need to have that in there for now. That was then. And that basically, corresponded to a retest of this double bottom area that I talked about way back when. I think I was on Bloomberg somewhere around here saying I think there's an 85% chance we retest this area. And as of now, we held it. So the question is, if you look at this 8-day moving average, okay, which I just wrote in my note and I pretty much listed it for all the things that we trade, this has been resistance. Okay, we broke down from right here, this little wedge, almost the same kind of wedge that we had here, but this one was tighter. That was over the summer. This one was a little looser into the end of the year, and then took out this 1990 area. So at this point, the question is, can we reclaim this spot? And that's a big question. If we reclaim this spot, maybe a little bit more of a short covering rally and probably a bit of a move higher that'll last for more than a few days. So the process is like this. First of all, can we engulf all of Friday? And that's 1916. That's probably right where we are now. And then here is the 8-day that we've pretty much been rejected out each time. So this would be, in my opinion, resistance 1. So if you're looking just to short a rally, I would perhaps wait till this spot. Okay, so you don't get ran over. And if we get into here and pause, and then at some point take out this lower pivot and get back above this 8-day moving average, okay, maybe there's a bit of a rally back to retest this broken area or the 21-day. If you look what happened here, when we turned here, a lot of people got caught short. Instead of covering, when we went back above the 8-day, they basically got squeezed out of it, as it rode it all the way up. We talk about above the 8-day moving average, you stay long, not short, and this held it the entire time. So I don't think we're going to get something like this, but at this point, we'll see what happens into this zone. So at least know where this zone starts. So you have Friday's high, and then you have the 8-day. So if you're trying to play a feeble bounce and you're not long overnight, that's your spot. If you're looking to short a rally, I would wait for at least this, and then if it winds up getting reclaimed, then perhaps get out of the way. And then at some point, I do think maybe I think you can even sell some bigger assets if we do get back up to this 1960 to 1970 area if you didn't start the year with a little risk down. This morning, oil's up. We're very focused on oil, which is true. So goes oil, has been, so goes the market. Over the weekend, crazy headlines everywhere on how Iran's going to flood the market, sanctions are lifted, we're going to see sub 20, we're going to see sub 10. So obviously it's kind of cute that today oil's up a lot. So what they do is they sold the rumor, and then on the news, they're covering and buying back. It doesn't mean it's the bottom for oil. It's just the way it works in trader land. So if you look at just say the USO, USO 8-day, just like everything else, is a bit higher. Okay, so right down like 940. That would be some pretty big resistance here in the USO. First thing it's got to do is get above Friday's high, and that will be that spot. It's been below the 8-day for the entire year, and it's also been below the 21-day since the fall. So this would be resistance, to key off of. Okay, and if it wants to bounce up to there, then this is resistance too. Some of you guys look at the DWTI, which is the crazy the crazy ETF, and I'm not getting I'm not getting data for that, and I'm just going to go off. So let's go to the XLE. XLE actually did not make a new low, and some guys are pointing that out in the chat room. This has been a broken sector, battered and bruised. Every rally's been sold below the 200-day, et cetera, et cetera. But on Friday, okay, it did not make a new low with oil. Okay, so that's a mini divergence that some saw. Maybe some guys got long. Look how it did not make a new low, and the spiders actually went to a new low. So maybe some guys are long that overnight, saying, what, maybe everyone's so scared to be long over the weekend, and they took a shot. So with that being said, here is your 8-day there. So there is room to probably bounce towards, again, just like everything else, this 55.85 area. And the question is, is it just a dead cat to here before going lower, or is there a little bit more room towards the 21-day where the prior threshold was, which comes in a little bit higher near 58? So this is one spot to watch and navigate. If you're long it, sell some into here, and then at some point, if this lasts a few days and it breaks above this, there's a bit more room up to the 21-day. So as you can see, this is like my whole formula for today is, obviously if we were down 20 handles, there's a lot of meat on the bone to have gotten long, to go green, to see relative strength, to perhaps get up to where we are now and have a great trading day, kind of like last Thursday. But with us up 25 handles, there's not that much room to resistance. And we've been into this resistance many times, and it's been easy to short. Maybe this time at these levels it's a little bit harder to short, so just keep that in mind. The Russell has been absolutely annihilated. It did have a green day also, closing above where it opened on Friday. So for this broken sector, same kind of thing. Can this thing rally back up to the 8-day, which it's been below ever since breaking this bear flag? And obviously it's below all the moving average, so it's broken. But came off here, it's probably up. I would say there is room up to this spot. If you're trying to play some kind of bounce, if you're looking to short a bounce, I guess you have also this high here. I'm sorry I didn't draw that perfectly, but I think that's like 102.71 to 103.55. So this is resistance one zone. Here's your your hammer bottom, and then this would be your spot. And if the market does get a little frisky and this stays for more than a day and lasts for a few weeks, this would be a much bigger resistance. This would be resistance 2, and by that time the 21-day will be down to here. Okay, so that's kind of the thinking. Is this a very feeble dead cat bounce that fails today, or does it hold up and do we get a few more days in some kind of fashion? That's what's going on in the back of my head. The bios, I'll do it real quickly also. It did not make a new low on Friday. If you look at this sector also, loves to trade in ascending channels. It broke it right here. So the question is, can it hit the 8-day? And from here to the 8-day, 284 to 297, it's about 13 points. I think it's up 6. So that's the room you have to play with before sellers think they can come in and just sell it there, or at some point maybe, again, just like everything else, it comes into that 21-day. But we shall see. So let's talk high beta tech. A lot of those false breakouts in the end of the year, gave big selling, selling signals, and then they've been for sale since. Google and Amazon have still acted the best. They're not at their 200-day. In Netflix, Facebook, a lot of the other ones have gotten, down to those. So let's just go with Amazon first. Amazon gave you that false breakout to start the year. Where was that? That was right here. Okay, that was your sell signal. Good 2-day trade, turned into a disaster if you sat there. And now here you are, it filled the gap, which we talked about it most likely happening. And now the question is, what kind of rally can Amazon have? So where would a spot to be if you covered here, or not in it, or if you were looking to be long for a trade, this would be a very hard spot to get above. That's 603. First micro resistance is 584. So this would be a very feeble bounce. If Amazon can't get above this, you know there's a lot more selling to come. And if it does get above, this would be the spot that I think some sellers would come in to try and sell the move, kind of like they did into there, and it's been below ever since. So that's a strategy just like everything else. Same thing with Google. Google did a false breakout up here and wound up putting in a little bit below. It did not fill its entire earnings gap, so it's a little bit stronger than your Amazon. But just like Amazon, there's going to be some resistance coming into the 8-day. This used to be support. Prior support turns into resistance, and this spot here is up 733. So from 710 where it closed to 733, 23 points until it retests the 8-day that's been resistance. This bar pushed a little bit above before failing, so we'll see what happens there. And then you want to go to Netflix. Netflix has earnings after the close, so it's going to be a bit more risky, and I guess it's going to be interesting to see what they do with earnings and how they treat it, whether it bounces off it and if it could hold, if it's good, et cetera, et cetera. Either way, here is your pivot, and same way this would be resistance 1, okay, which comes in close to 109, and then this would be your wall of resistance into this descending channel here where it's pushed through and failed, pushed through and failed. So we'll see what happens here. I guess we'll know a little bit more after the close, and then we'll see what happens if anything could start to get any momentum back. This is your real macro resistance, 116, 117, and this would be a little bit just in this descending channel trend. Let's go into Apple. Apple's been a broken name. It's had that head and shoulders top pattern we talked about that triggered. It was a little stronger on Friday. On the weekdays it shows a little relative strength. I think some of the fast money guys talked about buying it on Friday, so they got a good trade if you followed them, I guess. We'll see what happens here. It held this lower pivot, and just like everything else, like if you sold when it broke this ascending channel here, or lost a 200-day, maybe you nibbled. I personally think or thought it would get down to here. It didn't do it, so I'm not in any Apple. If you take a close-up look here, this is actually, because it's so weak, it's above the 8-day right now. So see if it could hold it. See if it could hold this spot and hold the gap, and then really, resistance comes in here, and then you have the 21-day higher. So this pivot area is going to be tough resistance, but it did go. It did rally faster than some other things, maybe because of them, and here will be an interesting spot to see if they sell it down. If they sell it down and it goes red, it's that sick. You look overall at this pattern here, it's still, pretty darn bearish, and I've drawn it differently, but a lot of guys drew the neckline right here. So if it wanted to come back up and retest this neckline, which sometimes it does, think about where it was here. This is the spot, and then it could still sell off after, earnings are next week. But anyway, see what happens today for today's action. Microsoft has been sold off to start the year. You always want to see the new complexion of a name coming in. This ascending channel got broken, and now it's in the earnings gap, and I don't think there's much to do here. It got hit when Intel got hit on earnings, and just like everything else, it's these things just don't look so compelling. They look broken, but oversold enough to perhaps get up and test areas. And here's the 32 and change is that 8-day there. Some guys are saying will BABA get a better bounce because the Shanghai was up? I don't know. Thank goodness when it didn't break above this 85, I kind of got away from it. I was like, all right, it looked great coming into the end of December, and it failed. I got out of it somewhere in here. I have some options that are worthless. Big deal. Here is a little bit of a bounce, and just like everything else, I'm sounding like a broken record, but this is the process. 72.50 is the 8-day. So from here, you have about a $2.50 window, and then if things want to be more than just a dead cat bounce into the 8-day that's been in control, at some point, this is a little bit higher. Okay, so that's again the overall strategy. The banks, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley was out this morning. Probably as good, if not, same type of report as J.P. Morgan. But J.P. Morgan, reported in a tougher tape last week. So, we'll see if the banks want to hold up in the same way. These banks have been battered and bruised, and at this point they're due for an oversold bounce also. But take it for what it is. Bank of America. Look at this chart. It's been absolutely annihilated, and that's why we talk about once things break the 8 and the 21-day and the 200-day. what's happened in here, as a trader, you're not long them. I haven't been Bank of America, long it, I don't even know since when. Looked halfway decent and then failed. And now, you had a little bit of a doji, and I guess, if they want to rally these things back to the 8-day, that's 15 and a quarter. I think it's probably around 1470. I don't think it would get there today, but that is resistance one area. Besides, what's it called? Friday's high, which is 1466, which it's opening probably a little bit above. And then also, this was prior support that turns into resistance. So this would be, I think this spot gets taken back, but then into the low 15s, it's going to be a hard time. And then if you look at JP Morgan, it tried to hold up after earnings and just couldn't. And this too, the broken name below all the moving averages, etc., has big resistance right there. So, as you could see, again, the today's plan is, we're gapping up, which makes it hard to be long, because you have to be a surgeon to figure out if it continues. And if we do continue to the upside, can we stay above some of Friday's highs and get to the 8-day? And if we get to the 8-day, maybe trim some of those longs if you were able to position in. And then at that point, some guys are going to try and sell that spot. And if we're that weak, we might get rejected there. And if the bounce wants to go a little bit further, some things will take that back, some things won't. And maybe a few days later, we'll see resistance too. At this point, I would take trades. I wouldn't be so upset that you're not long coming in today. It was hard to be long into that weekend, especially after what happened to, I know me. I had a great day Thursday and wanted a little bit of follow through, and then got my clock cleaned a little bit into Friday. So I was like, you know what? I got to stop the overnights for a little bit because it's not making sense. That was a bit of a bull trap. Maybe that was just enough to knock the sentiment so poorly that now they rally up a little bit easier. So I'm going to have to get myself back in that game, so to speak. Someone want to know what the support is on the TLTs. TLTs are down today as the futures are up. So I guess, look at this. Above the 8-day moving average, the 8-day has been support versus every equity I showed you is below. So this support, if you happen to have sold some strength, comes in closer to 123.77. So if you're looking to buy back and you're trading these ranges, this still is above all the moving averages and is technically a lot more sound than the overall equity market. So I don't know what that says for that, but here is support around 123.70. So, if you do get Redler All Access and you get my note, you'll be able to match up a lot of the prices I went over here, on the note, perhaps print it out, have in front of you, and see, again, if there's, the best, I guess, case scenario would be is if they try and sell down the market a little bit in the first half an hour, okay, and then you get a pivot, a 30 to 60 minute pivot to buy against, and then maybe we trend towards that 8-day where you could then sell into and then maybe look to short somewhere around there. But if we go quickly and the shorts get squeezed and we make our high of the day by 9:50, it's going to be one of those tougher days where just don't overtrade and lose money that you don't need to. You just say, okay, not the most conducive environment if you came in flat. So that's my one to grow on. Again, hope you had a great weekend. It's Tuesday. We'll figure it out together. It's going to be a long week in front of us, and we have a long year in front of us. So, keep your mental state strong, and do some things to continue to let off some steam as these ranges are bigger. And even if you don't catch one or two moves, there'll be more moves, coming up down the road. Have a great day trading. I'll see you to recap.